Chapter 6, A Surprising Friend. Days went by, and the Acorn Scouts barely spoke to each other. Violet avoided Tiger Lily, but Tiger Lily hardly noticed. She was too busy with Thorn. Violet spent her time sitting in the park, remembering when all the Mouse Scouts were still friends. She felt her wrist where Tiger Lily's bracelet should have been, and wondered if she would ever have a friend again. As she sat there, the sprinkler system in the park came on, drenching her. It figures, Violet thought. Nothing in this world is right. Violet stood up and shook off as much water as she could. She wandered over to a rock by the swing set, hoping to dry herself off in the sun. But when she got to the rock, someone was already sitting there. It was Miss Poppy. "Oh, hello, Violet," Miss Poppy said. "Isn't it a lovely day?" For a moment, Violet was speechless. She had never had a conversation with Miss Poppy outside of a Mouse Scout meeting. In fact, she had a hard time believing that Miss Poppy existed outside of a Mouse Scout meeting. But here she was, and she was even being friendly. Violet wiped her eyes. "Oh, Miss Poppy, the Make Friends badge is the hardest badge we have ever worked on. No one is speaking to anyone, and Tiger Lily is friends with a Maple Scout. I am never going to speak to her again." Miss Poppy smiled and motioned for Violet to sit down. Violet was nervous, but she did as Miss Poppy asked. "Violet, can I ask you a question?" Miss Poppy said. Violet gulped and blinked back her tears. "I guess so," she replied in a quivering voice. "What is your favorite kind of cheese?" Miss Poppy asked. Violet didn't know how Miss Poppy could talk about cheese at a time like this. She was too upset to even think about cheese, but she answered anyway. "Cheddar," Violet said. "Is that the only kind of cheese you like?" Miss Poppy asked. "Of course not," said Violet. "I like Gouda and Brie and Swiss and—" Violet forgot all about how upset she was. Suddenly, she felt very hungry. "Miss Poppy, are we going to have a snack?" But Miss Poppy continued to speak. "I was just thinking that even if cheddar is your favorite cheese, sometimes it can be nice to try something else," Miss Poppy said. "It doesn't mean you like cheddar less. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?" Violet still wondered why Miss Poppy was talking about cheese, but she nodded just the same. Everyone knew she liked lots of different cheeses, except for Junebug, of course. Miss Poppy smiled back. "Now that I think of it, a snack would be nice." She rummaged in her bag and pulled out a small piece of cheese. She split it into 2 pieces and handed one to Violet. Violet took a bite, and it was delicious. "Thank you, Miss Poppy," Violet said. "You are welcome, Violet. I'm glad we had this talk." Miss Poppy replied with a smile. Then her smile vanished, and she looked more like regular old Miss Poppy. "Now, don't forget, you have a badge requirement to be working on. I will see you at the next meeting with the Maple Scouts." Later that evening, as Violet wrote in her friendship journal, she thought about what Miss Poppy had said about cheese. Suddenly, it made sense. Miss Poppy hadn't really been talking about cheese at all. She was talking about friendship. Just because Tiger Lily had made a new friend didn't mean that Violet was any less important to her. Violet was Tiger Lily's cheddar, and Thorn was... Violet tried to imagine what kind of cheese Thorn would be. She held her pencil to her nose and thought. Then she remembered the time Tiger Lily had given her a stinky piece of cheese. Tiger Lily didn't seem to mind it, but Violet hadn't cared for it at all. "Thorn is Limburger," Violet said with a satisfied giggle. Then Violet grew wistful. "Tiger Lily is my cheddar, too," she thought. She wondered about Miss Poppy and who her cheddar was. Maybe it was the long-lost friend that she and Tiger Lily had giggled about the day they played on the mini blinds. She felt her wrist and wished she hadn't lost Tiger Lily's friendship bracelet. And then it occurred to her, she knew exactly where she had lost the bracelet. Mouse Scout Handbook: Making and Keeping a Friendship Journal. A friendship journal is a wonderful way to keep track of and celebrate your friendships. You may use any notebook you like, or you may make your own. Instructions for making a journal can be found in the Make a Difference section of this handbook. When you have your notebook, divide it into 2 sections. In the front section, write a page about each one of your friends. A sample page may look something like this. You may also include pictures or drawings of your friends and things that remind you of them. In the second section, keep a daily diary of your friendship activities.